here. How did your screening go?
It's amazing. We got a standing ovation, and
Of course you did. Your film, oh my gosh, like your film was just brilliant. It was really touching. So I'm just going to get right into it. Thank you so much for being here on Fern TV and speaking to us. Explain briefly what your film is about for our viewers.
well, the delivery line is about five midwives around the world working in conflict zones, migration borders, on the edge of poverty and drug addiction and homelessness, gang warfare and cartel uh, barrios. And in remote areas of Afghanistan, with the Taliban and blah blah blah. So yeah, so it's basically these amazing women um, fighting to save lives. One woman dies every 2 minutes in the world giving birth, and Nigeria is the deadliest place on earth to give birth. And the statistics are just
Yeah,
so that's what the film is recognizing the amazing work and exploring these global issues through a female lens.
absolutely. So you spent 8 years filming in multiple countries and conflict zones. How did the film evolve emotionally and politically over time? Like, was this the film that you anticipated in the beginning to make?
Well, no, actually, to be honest, we started in Afghanistan. Sorry if this is noisy, but we started in Afghanistan, and that film was pitched as just a film about the Afghan midwives. And then we couldn't sell that. So it was like, okay, if we make it global, if we bring it home to Canada, if we address all these issues and especially address the issue of, the homelessness and our social issues on par with the global issues, then the film kind of okay that's something that we could sell and that the broadcasters were interested in. So it morphed a few times. We did try pitch it as a series and I'm still pitching it as a series. I think it could be a really beautiful series. uh, but then TVO said they'd like to see a feature doc to sort of start off. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be an amazing series too. I think it's something that needs to be spoken about. I think women's issues are not spoken
yeah.
enough. And birth being a very intimate human emotion, how did you build trust from everyone to be able to go in such intimate settings with people who are very vulnerable?
Well, I mean, yeah, you have to understand, I've been doing this a really long time. I'm like 35, almost 40 years of in the business. So it's kind of natural to me. And I put the camera down a lot and um, I get to know people. I show my own vulnerability. In this film, I mean, that's the biggest one, actually. I think if they see you as a human being, and they understand that you've given birth, you've I've had a lot of life experiences that involve some not so pleasant stuff, so I can share that with them and let them know that I'm vulnerable and I've gone through some stuff. I think then they see you as human. They don't just see you as a camera or someone trying to suck their story out of them and run away with it. But in this case, I had extremely trusted, um, you know, touchstones in each. The midwives were brought us in, and their clients and their patients trusted them, so they trusted us. So that it actually was quite a bit easier.
Yeah, it was. I have to say, I didn't get past 15 minutes of the film without tearing up. I was, and the thing that seeing things that happen around the world, but coming home to Toronto and having that be part of, the countries in conflict, and then you realize as a Torontonian, as a Canadian, like, oh my gosh, this is at home too. It's not just in these countries um, that we think about, and that just leads me um, to the next question: is how did you navigate that? How, like, did you think, oh, when you were thinking about pitching it and selling it, did you think, oh, well, I'm gonna do the homeless people? Like, how did the idea of reaching out to a midwife who are
Well,
is, you know,
I think it was basically like we thought of things in category, like in global issues, like categories, and you know, homelessness, drug addiction, colonization, mental health issues. Um, you know, Canada's in crisis. Vancouver is in crisis. Toronto is in crisis. I mean, even where I live in Halifax is in crisis when it comes to housing and people not being served and mentally ill people being slammed into prisons instead of shelters, and you know their small shelters being torn down whenever there's a sporting event coming. I mean, it is a crisis here, just as valid as it is anywhere else. And it felt very important to me to include, we didn't want to make it an us and them, like we're doing everything right and you're doing everything wrong out there in the world, because it's so not the case. And so finding someone that was on the street was we started actually with the Afghan community, and another midwife who was working with the Afghan community said, no, you have to start with Jay. She's the OG of, and we wanted a little bit of background to the struggles that midwives had in Canada, being, it was scary and it was hard. I mean, when I gave birth to my baby, I was in Quebec, and right at the time when the head of the hospital that I brought my baby in after had to be transferred to be checked on. And my midwife was terrified because she said, oh, he's testifying in order to stop home births and making it illegal to have midwives. So that was going on in the 90s. So it's not like, everything's all perfect here in Canada. And we just wanted to show that.
yeah. Um, were you surprised at how the universal stories felt across different cultures and countries?
No, actually, I travel a lot, and I actually don't. I think we're all just people. We're all just, we've all been born or given birth, or have mothers or have sisters and children, and everyone's fighting the same fight and wanting to do the right thing for their family and the people they love. And no, I spend a lot of time in other places, and a lot of places where a lot of people don't go or they choose to ignore. And no, I think we're all the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're the director, the cinematographer, the editor. How was wearing multiple hats shape the intimacy of the film?
Yeah, I don't know. I think wearing multiple hats can be a bit of a blessing and a curse. As it's hard because you have such attachment to, and so I've gotten pretty used to throwing out, pardon the pun, but throwing out, we call them throw out your babies. It's the scenes that you absolutely love the most. And
Mm,
often, they're the ones you have to chuck out because you're attached to them, not because filmically they make sense or for the cinematic narrative. So it is hard. Everyone asks me that, to direct and shoot and, often, I mean, and edit. And often I do the music, and I did the soundscape for this film, but we had a wonderful composer, and it was so nice collaborating with another person she would dance in front of
oh,
oh, it was so great. She danced and play her viola, and she was
beautiful.
wonderful. Yeah, so it's a curse and a blessing. We'll
Yeah.
say.
What do you hope audiences in Canada can take away from seeing childbirth connected to a larger global system of immigration and inequality?
Well, I honestly think that what Jimena says, I don't want to spoiler alert, but at the end of the film is basically she says, honestly, this is how you can change the world at the beginning of life. That if you give a peaceful, nurturing, loving, respectful birth to a child, it imprints on them. It's a blueprint, and it can change how a baby and a toddler and a child and a teenager and a grown-up lives their life. And I honestly believe I'd love them to come away thinking about that just for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, your film was absolutely touching, as I mentioned, and I did a documentary about pregnancy loss. So I'm very a big advocate of women's issues, and it should be spoken of. And I'm very happy that you did that. Just one last question, which is kind of ties into what you just said. What conversations do you hope that people will talk about after seeing your film?
Yeah, I mean, I think more people, I hope more people would consider two things: having a midwife with them when they give birth, and also going into midwifery. We need a million more midwives around the world, and in order for more women not to die in childbirth. So study midwifery. If you're thinking what to study, midwifery and save some lives. Also, I'd like them to go on my website, the thedeliveryline.com, and go to my impact page. And if they could, we have a donate and or host a screening to help midwives around the world. We might do different campaigns at different times to actually send Doppler heart monitors down to Mexico, to Colombia, to Afghanistan, so and Nigeria. So basically, I think, yeah, just just love midwives.
Yeah, well, we'll put the website definitely in the article as well. Thank you so much for your time,
Thank
Nance.
you. Thanks so much.
Congratulations.
Okay,
Bye
thanks.
bye.
Bye.